So there we go. Well, welcome everybody. I see there's a bunch of people who have subscribed and have joined us there on the right-hand column. I'm seeing you there watching us, and thanks so much for joining us today. We're with Ty Williams, and Ty, if you'd like to introduce yourself, go for it, please.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name's Ty Williams. I'm been with Blackberry now. Just celebrated. I don't know if you just joined earlier, but I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary with the company, which is a big personal milestone and goal. So I'm really proud to be here. A bit of background on myself, just so you guys get familiar with me. I grew up in Sarnia, Ontario, came to Blackberry, located in Waterloo, Ontario, would have been 2005, 2006. And I started in a support role. I helped open up our Halifax office, so I did some training, which kind of got the knack for the knowledge sharing piece of what I do now. Yeah. And through relationship building I had a really great mentor, Michelle Kostya, back in the day. She helped kind of build my social chops, for lack of a better expression, and that was with the Inside Blackberry help blog. So for anyone who's got a second browser tab, it's helpblog.blackberry.com. And for about the past 4 years is when I left support and I joined our social team and leading the Inside Blackberry help blog, working with our at Blackberry help support team, which is an awesome team to work with. And I also manage our Blackberry support community forums, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I've been doing this for we're almost coming up to 2 years now, and it has been an incredible ride. It is a roller coaster. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with everyone today about it and sharing some lessons learned, some knowledge gained, and
awesome.
Just having some fun talking about all things community. So
that's great.
I'm in with any questions. So thanks again for having me, Jamie.
No problem, and thanks for joining. Anytime, like that link you mentioned, anytime you want to share a link, you can just put it there in that right-hand column and share it with everybody, and they can just click on it. It'll be a live link, and they can check it out if they want.
I will do that right now.
Ty is someone I met a few months ago back in the spring, and when I started to think about my Bright Minds Blab series, he's one of the first people that came to mind because I like what they're doing there, creating the community there at Blackberry. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm the digital fluency coach, Jamie Good, and I'm doing this series to just have good conversations with people, and I thought that if I'm going to learn, then maybe I'll share them with other people so that you guys can learn as well. So that's kind of the basis for this. So one of the questions I had sent to you earlier that I thought might be important is, why do you feel it's important to create community around your brand?
So building community around the brand, the most important thing is the genuine relationships you build. I look at a lot of the people in the community not as customers so much as peers and friends, and building that relationship. It's a two-way street, because if we put out content, if I write a post, I want my community to tell me what they like, what they don't like, what I could be doing different. And using them, they have helped me. They've helped mold me into what I am today, in the sense of creating, good quality content, thinking of the questions that I know a few of my keen super users would always ask me, and also taking into consideration their feedback and thoughts on products and services internally, so we can say, hey, when we do our next release of this, let's see about changing this, because this is what the result will be. So it's kind of a problem solution, but essentially building the community around the brand is important, because they're the first person a customer is probably going to hear from when they reach out for self-service support, which is we all know is where everything is going towards today. And having these advocates, as I love the word advocate for them, because they are brand ambassadors that not only want to help people, but they also want to help the product and service improve as much as it can. And through these folks, if any of them are on the line right now, you know who you are. I owe a lot to you, and the community you've helped build that I also came into, and that was another really fun experience too. It's fantastic, and it is one of the most rewarding things that I've done in my professional career, seeing the volume of the people you can help, but also the satisfaction they get of knowing that their opinion matters, and it's important, and it is taken into consideration with a lot of the stuff we do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like what you said there at the beginning, where you consider them to be peers, and I think that will show in the way that you interact with them and make them feel more welcome, would trust you. And then what you're saying there near the end is you're, excuse me, getting their loyalty too, which is amazing.
Yeah, and these folks are passionate beyond passionate. They love what they do, and I love what I do. And I mean, it's a perfect relationship. Everything's in harmony. And I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of them in person through various Blackberry events. And you don't feel like you're talking to somebody you just met for the first time, which is great when you meet them physically. You feel like, hey, give them a high five, say hi, shoot the breeze for a little bit. And it's a fantastic relationship that, work relationship, but also a personal relationship. It's great. And I mean, the transparency and honesty I find is what also really helps build that loyalty with them. And it's gone a long way in helping shape me to what I am today.
Oh, that's really awesome. I think that's really great to hear. As you were saying with your work anniversary and how you've grown, this is such an awesome part for you to be in now. Is just I can imagine, like, I like that too about, let's say, even just using Twitter and LinkedIn when you go to a conference and you meet people, but it doesn't feel like the first time you've met them.
No, not at all.
I really love that about social media, that it allows us to do that kind of thing. So that's awesome to hear.
It is, and it's great. And I mean, the networking as well is obviously one of the nice parts of one of the benefits of building the community, because we have one person I work with a lot, and he has a lot of enterprise knowledge, and getting his insight is great. But I also can leverage him to say, hey, you may have some peers that are interested in X, Y, and Z. And he's able to kind of jump in and suggest things, and sharing knowledge. Because I mean, as much as, like I mentioned earlier, you're putting it out to them, they're also giving it back to you. And I don't think a single day goes by that I don't learn something new. And that's awesome. The whole, what is it? The NBC, the more you know.
Well, that's amazing. I love hearing that. And I remember talking to you earlier this year about user-generated content, and that seems to be an important part of your community. How do you feel that the user-generated content helps foster your Blackberry community?
So user-generated content, UGC, is awesome because, speaking to the forum specifically, we have a core group of super users, and they produce a lot of quality content. What's awesome about that content is, since it lives in the forums and it's frequently being updated by them, it can attain a lot of traffic and views. And kind of the rule of thumb I've always done is, for every one person that chimes in and says, hey, that helped me, there's probably 500 other people that saw that, found the solution, and didn't call in. And what I really like about that is it's the deflected calls that they're helping prevent. So our support agents are fielding a lot of those common how-to questions. But it's not just and I almost downplayed it there by saying common how-to. Some of the issues that are documented in UGC are very detailed, very complex, but they're done in a way that is written in an end-user type fashion. And because they're writing it, they almost take into account, these are the things you need to know, almost like the quirks.
Yes.
One of the best ways I've described it is they almost, anytime UGC is created, it almost provides an outlet for the customer to find more. So if that didn't help them, they at least have the starting point to know where to go, where to find the solution, kind of the next steps. But that UGC, it's living, breathing content that's there long after they posted it. And the amount of people that helps, and the numbers we have accepted solutions in our community, is unreal. And these guys, they do a lot, and it's awesome, because that UGC is, I don't want to use the expression you take it for granted, but you don't realize how valuable it is until you look at the numbers and you pull it back and you're like, well, 20 people replied on the thread. It's a pretty active thread. But then you're like, that thread also has 50,000 views. So that tells me there's a lot of people looking for this stuff. And thinking, kind of next steps after that, off the bat it goes, I need to think, hey, I can take that UGC and maybe put it on the help blog and put more of a bit more promotion and backing behind it. And it's great when you get that feedback from the creators of the UGC when they see that their content was promoted by the brand, because then it's that personal satisfaction of, hey, I did that. And you have that aha moment, and sharing the feedback that I get sometimes sent directly to me to them. It's really rewarding. And like I said, they are phenomenal folks. And the UGC is a critical part of your community. Foster it, embrace it, and get as many people doing it as possible, because anytime they're writing something for you, it's only helping the company in the end, which is why you should be encouraging by all means.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that's amazing. So one of the things I'm wondering, though, when you have the user-generated or content UGC, as you say, do you have a way of, like, does someone need to moderate to make sure that anything that's submitted is up to standards or is not incorrect, for example? Is there some sort of process you guys have?
So if it's more of a formal, so let's say a post that's going to get published on the help blog, I'll definitely review that. But if it's in the community, our super users, we have a great kind of internal super user community. They'll often, if they post something, it's almost guaranteed that within a couple of minutes, another super user is going to see it. And in the sense of kind of the community, curating the community, and was doing the reviewing, it allows more content to come out without having like a single pipe, or I don't want to use the expression point of failure, but rather than having a single point of contact have to proof and sign off on everything, allowing them to push it out themselves and grow it on their own is really good and rewarding. But then what we can find too is if they do find issues, or if someone finds an issue with it, going back to them and saying, like, hey, let's make a, this is phrased like this, let's make a subtle tweak so it's phrased like this. They're learning at the same time that I am, but they're also realizing just how valuable the content was, because people ultimately saw it, and here's, some ways to improve it. And the next time they do it, they make even more quality content. So it's great. And the traffic, like I mentioned, is unreal, because it's living, breathing content that's always there, and it's easy to find. And that's what's the value of UGC.
Well, that's fantastic. You guys have like this amazing case study about a community. It's fantastic.
They are awesome. The one thing I have noticed too with UGC is comparing to the blog to the forums. When you speak from a corporate perspective, you have to be mindful of the tone and how the message is being conveyed, and especially when we have a worldwide audience like we do here at Blackberry. So what I found in the past is when you have guest bloggers, sometimes you have to do a bit more editing on the blog side to get that message, nice and consistent. And some people don't really like that. And I've learned from my experience with doing it that you have to kind of start slow, and using the forums for that is a great tool avenue for them, because it allows them to be a bit more informal and a bit less, to the guidelines, which means the content is, if I take off my employee hat, that content is written in the language that I'm speaking. And that's not to say the blog isn't, but there's terms in there that may be in there that we may not use, or the way they're just defining something. It helps, but that also, like I said, how it's a two-way street. I take that feedback in and say, well, if that's how our customers are referring to it, maybe we need to look at updating our docs so we're tagging, keywords to knowledge base articles. So if somebody types in BES, for example, we know they're talking about the BlackBerry Enterprise Service. That's, a really quick example, but it's seeing the language that the people speak, and then utilizing that to create content going forward. You're going to target more people, and more people are going to be able to find it, improving satisfaction.
Yeah, it's fantastic little loop that you guys have, where it's just this constant loop of feedback and learning, and then more learning and more feedback and more I just love the more you're talking about, the more I just see this continuous cycle going around and around, and it's really fantastic. One of the things I was wondering, and you kind of touched on it already by saying you kind of see what people talk about in the forums, and that helps inform blog posts and things like that, but maybe back in the beginning, or even nowadays, how do you decide on which themes are important for your community and things that they need to know? Like, if you have a new device, let's say, coming out, how do you know what the theme should be for your blog posts or the content that you're putting out? What's the decision-making process that you've gone through for that?
So thinking of content requirements and thinking about themes of what content's needed, the team I'm on is the kind of online social management and knowledge support. And we also are part of our training team. So this, you can see where I'm going with this. This gives me a really great insight. I basically sit at the crossroads of our training team, but also our customer support teams, creating, in addition to user guides and web-based training, all the knowledge-based articles and the kind of the known, any potential known issues or anything that we feel customers need to know about. So I'll leverage all that and kind of just say, hey, everyone, send me whatever you got. I'll kind of go through it, identify some stuff that I've seen based on trends from past launches, and lessons learned, very important. And using those kind of lessons learned, I kind of have a checklist where it's, what are the, the first time setup? What is the approach that a non-technical customer is going to have? What is a technical customer going to have? Because one of the things I've learned too with Blackberry is, we all know with smartphones, people's level of knowledge can either be very simple, unlock the phone, place a call, add a contact, whereas other people are utilizing multiple synchronization services. They're adding tags, filters, all sorts of things. So the theme that I've kind of gone through is starting from scratch, but also starting from a techie user perspective. Because, and it's not overly technical, I should clarify too. It's not like these people are, in their hardcore developers or anything like that, but people that really know their devices inside and out. And if you write a post that's very entry level, they're going to see the first paragraph and, on to the next page. That doesn't interest them. But to build out the content for those kind of streams, as I would phrase it, I leverage our beta community. So Blackberry obviously has a beta program for any products or services we're working on internally, and we do have an external beta at blackberry.com/betazone as well. But I will leverage the beta community by posting in there and saying, introducing myself, because Blackberry is a fairly big company, letting people know what I do, and then saying, here's the value of what input you can give me will result in. And getting the feedback from those testers, that's the customers day one. It's the same feedback, which is great, because here at Blackberry, same thing. We'll have some people that are, very technical. We have some that know it inside and out, but we also have some that are, rather net new. And it's been, without their feedback, I don't think I would have been able to create a lot of the content that I've created today, because the insights they give and the perspectives and the things you don't think about that they bring to your attention, it's mind-blowing. It's really, it's rewarding when you can see that feedback and you get a post, you publish it, day two, you get a comment, and it's like, that was my question. And you almost go back to the beta person and be like, hey, did you know that as a result of you sharing this was created, it helped this many people. And then it builds, again, that two-way street. They're supplying me with more feedback, and I'm also sharing with them the results of their feedback, which everyone loves to see, right? So it's a combination of beta testing, beta testers internally, personal and past experience based on how content's performed. And doing this for 4 years now, I've learned a lot of what works and what doesn't work, which really helps me out. And having been involved in a lot of past product launches, you get to think of, what are those things from past launches that I want to do different? And it's not different in the sense of, reinventing the wheel every time, but subtle differences to how you're promoting content or how you're sharing it can make a really big difference in how you're targeting who that content's going to is critical. So it's kind of, the theme is, I guess, to go full circle, and I'm sure as people can probably tell listening, I like to chat a little bit.
That's okay.
Thinking of your streams, so new user, average user, and experienced user, taking into consideration feedback from multiple sources. And that's one thing that I think is really important, and followed by past experience and using personal knowledge, but also sharing the content out beforehand with those peers internally, because they're going to be your best set of reviewers beforehand. They're going to help you find those kind of quirks that you should improve before you publish your content externally.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so much good info there. And I just had something that just popped into my mind that I was going to ask you is, so when you have these super users and people posting and sharing and putting the UGC out on your forums, etc., do you have any sort of reward system for people? Let's say like best super user or a person who had the most maybe hits on their post or something. Do you have anything like that in place?
So in the past, we used to actually with our super users, we would go to the various events. So we had for any legacy Blackberry fans on the call right now, we had WES back in the day, WES, and then it's switched over to Blackberry Live, and we hosted those in Orlando, and that's actually where I got to meet a lot of them, which was really fun because you're at an event about the company you love, they love, and there's all this knowledge sharing going on at these things, which is great. But in addition to the events, we also seed devices to our super users, and we'll kind of touch into that in a bit, our BlackBerry Elite members, which is, I would love to share more about them.
Sure.
We will seed devices, so with BlackBerry 10 launch, because that was a completely different OS. So we had our community, which was built strong and running great with BlackBerry OS content. We had these super users that we wanted to get, right up to speed before launch. So we were able to get them devices day of launch. So they had them. We had BlackBerry experts on the ground with them, helping them get set up and getting them that two-way street that they can share that feedback directly in, I found is it's kind of an unwritten incentive because their opinion really does matter and it carries clout internally because this is the customer we're selling the phone to. Their feedback's really important. And being able to share with them, this is the feedback you gave and this is the result of it is great. Obviously, a caveat being you can't implement all the feedback because you'd never stop, right? But when you're able to kind of, take the sentiment of it and the experience of it, you can get that implemented. And I think that's one of the kind of the unwritten incentives. We have done swag in the past, and I'm looking to start that up again. But currently what we're doing is we actually just do a top 10 series within the forums. So our moderators will post kind of the top 10 users. And then in addition to the top 10 frequently, what those users get, because our top 10 is a very consistent top 10 too, which is really great. We'll also give them perks. So one of our users, he has a special badge, and he's actually been labeled our resident expert, Jay Sanders. How you doing? He is extremely passionate and a big advocate. And one of the things that they did, my former colleague, they enabled him with a custom card. So he has a distinct look in the community. But also other incentives are, we give them the ability to have, more customization in their signatures. The ability to have their opinion impact the community. So I'll implement a new feature, I'll put it out for testing, and I can tell usually within about 3 or 4 days what the folks think about it. And giving them the ability to, I can't think of a different way to phrase this, to dictate some changes or why they would like to see something changed, I think is a really big kind of incentive for them. And being able to take their feedback and say, let's say a training course, how can we deliver something different? Going to them and saying, hey, here's the change we made based on yours. That's kind of the other incentive. So it's a bit of personal satisfaction with some monetary goods. However, we are looking to get more swag out in the future. So if anyone from the forums is listening, watch out for more in the near future on that. But I'm really, really looking forward to Priv, and same thing with those elites. We're hoping to have them kind of ramped up so they're ready to go day one, which I think is going to be great.
So excellent! Wow, that's really great. There's a lot of thought behind that for sure. I just want to mention before I ask you a couple more questions that if anyone who's on here wants to ask a question, go ahead on the right-hand column there by doing /Q, then writing your question, so it will highlight it for us. Or grab the open seat. There's an open seat there, and you can ask your question live if you want to, Ty. One other thing, so you kind of touched on this a bit too in terms of the calls to the helpline, I guess you call it. What sort of positive business results have you seen based on having this community? How has it impacted the business?
Yeah, without sharing numbers, incredible. Incredible in capitals. This would be worthy of caps lock if I was writing this right now. The kind of using that analogy again of for every one person that comments, 100 persons see it. The numbers of some of the accepted solutions that our super users have produced is mind-boggling. And when you think of the cost savings of that deflected call, so even if 0.5% of the total views of that solution, didn't call in, that's a cost savings in the potential tens of thousands. And being able to share those numbers internally, it's fun because, and you'll know this as well, Jamie, from being in social, it's really neat kind of year over year seeing the difference in how these numbers are, the weight behind them.
Yes.
Because as social support grows, companies are starting to see, there's a lot of value in this, but by having these users in your community providing this content and deflecting calls, it's a cost savings in, like I said, incredible. Like it's really mind blowing, and it's a really rewarding experience when you're able to share those internally. And when people come back being like, "Is that right?" And you're like, I'm lowballing it, and it's awesome because it's great to see. And I mean, I know myself, being a blogger, we are very stats focused, and seeing the stats that some of the folks pull is just like, wow. So it's really, really
awesome.
cool.
So do you have your social team sort of send people to the forums and the blog when they first reach out, let's say on Twitter? Is that a practice that you guys do?
So it's kind of, we do it based on kind of the issue that we're seeing, but also the detail, because one of the problems we have, and one of the posts that I wrote in the past that we've kind of floated in the community, is help us help you. And essentially, if somebody tweets me directly, because my personal Twitter is basically a company Twitter, people will reach out to me and I'll try to assist. But if we're not able to get that level of detail, or we need, more, whether we need to start sharing images back and forth, I'll direct to the community. But our Twitter feed, what we'll do there is, if we're off hours, we'll often kind of direct people, hey, we're going to be offline tonight. Feel free to post in the community. The community may be able to assist. If not, we'll be able to hop right back in and help you out if you're still encountering an issue. So we'll direct to the community whenever possible. But if a resource is able to assist from a social channel such as Blackberry Help, they're all over it. One of the things we are looking at doing, though, is implementing, some other companies have done, and I've seen some really good results, is kind of the being transparent in the sense of saying, we've signed off for the night. Because the channel's not 24/7, but since we're worldwide, if you message us from, let's say, my colleague in Indonesia, which is, I believe, 12 hours ahead, if he messages us during his daytime, he may be waiting a little bit before he gets a reply, and that causes a bit of negative satisfaction, because the expectation is with Twitter, I want that reply coming in right away. But by almost encouraging and saying, go to the community, you're providing another resource for when our staff isn't available right there and then. And like I mentioned, those super users in the community, they have an extremely high level of knowledge. So chances are they're going to be able to help solve it. The key thing is, though, is just sharing that information in the detail. My phone doesn't work. Wow. If you give us a little more detail, we'll happily dig into that. And it's those probing questions that the community will ask, and kind of extract that information out from the customer and be able to provide them with a solution. And what I think is really cool is the follow-up. So often or not, you may not get a reply to a post that I know is the answer. You'll follow up and the person says, oh, that was my solution. And it was almost that follow-up that kind of gives them that extra reassurance that, hey, we care. We want to know that everything is working for you as expected. And if it isn't, well, we need to figure out why so we can help sort it out.
That's a really good practice. Yeah, that's kind of like a nice little extra that you do there for sure. So you mentioned a couple of times, what is the Blackberry Elite program? What's that all about?
So the Blackberry Elite program was started just after the launch of Blackberry 10. And what it is we have, Blackberry has a lot of passionate fans worldwide. And we I always equate it to about three kind of streams. So you have our social advocates, you have our support advocates, support elites, which I'll talk to in depth about, and then you have our developer elites. So we have our developer ambassador program, and our evangelists will work with them. We have the social elites, which is, they carry a lot of clout and influence, and they're very passionate, and they're able to help spread the message and get the word out, which is great. And their opinion really carries weight with their followers, which is, you can't put a price on that. With the support elites in particular, our forums has a group of super users, but of those super users, there are several that are members of the Blackberry Elite program. And the Elite program is, a very close relationship with Blackberry. So I have all these folks on BBM. They can ping me pretty much 24/7, and if I'm not sleeping, I'm going to jump right on it. But we also give them kind of insider info. So if we're launching something, they'll get kind of the advance notice. They have the ability to share feedback and issues that they're encountering. And because they may be getting that feedback from their followers, we know, okay, we've got to, check into this, because they're the ones that are out in the world, kind of being brand ambassadors. Yes. You want to enable them and equip them with the information and the knowledge they need, but also provide them with the ability to say, hey, if you have an issue, let us know. Or if you're seeing an issue that people are encountering or telling you about frequently, let us know. And that goes right in. And they've built a lot of great relationships across the business, from our PR to our marketing to our support to our product management. It's really kind of cool. And I mean, it's neat when you can say a lot of them are on first name basis, which is really
that's amazing. So one question about the social elite people. How did you discover that these people had a lot of clout and were people that had an audience that would listen to them and their opinions? How did you did you use a tool for that?
So for the support elites, my elites were based off of kind of the forums performance. For the social, and I will clarify that I wasn't really involved with selecting a lot of the social elites, but it was kind of a combination of looking at kind of the followers, the sentiment they have, the language, and how they're kind of genuine advocates of Blackberry. So it's kind of a combination of the amount of influence or followers they have, but also the message they're putting out, and plus the people they're connecting with, because just because somebody has 100,000 followers doesn't mean they carry more influence than somebody that carries 1,000. Because in my personal experience with Twitter, it's genuine messages. Like, that's exactly what that person would say to me. They're not saying that just for the sake of some other unknown reason. It's a heartfelt, genuine message. And we, through kind of social monitoring and just kind of, overseeing things, you can kind of see, whose message carries weight, and kind of this, like I mentioned, genuine. And that's how a lot of them were identified. And it's really great to see, because they are great people, and they do a really great job advocating for us. And I couldn't say anything. They're awesome. Like, I don't know how else to quite describe it. So it's all Blackberry elites. You guys
I think it sounds amazing. I think it sounds like a lot of fun. It's like you said, you learn every day. I think it's great. It's very positive. There's a good energy around it. This has been kind of like a community brand 101 kind of course, actually, by the way you're talking, because it just, everything makes so much sense. It all connects so well. I'm really impressed by this. Of course, why I wanted to have you on here, because I think it's so smart and it just works so well. And I think there's so many people who could learn from this about what to kind of insert into their company practices, for sure. If I'm not seeing any other questions there, do you have anything you'd like to add before we finish?
One of the things that I always like seeing from other kind of community managers, and is kind of you've seen it online in blog posts, the what's in your bag, or the kind of the what are the tools you use. So I figured I'd kind of just share a day in the life of, and kind of some of the tools that I use, because maybe for some of the people on the call, they may find some benefit. And if any of the tools I suggest, you have some other options as well, let me know. Awesome. But in my role, because again, I'm kind of touching on several different channels, and I didn't even announce my title, which is Community Content Manager. So community content goes hand in hand. But what I'll do is I come in daily, check the social sphere, see what people are talking about, see any hot topics, any hot button issues that you got to jump on, followed by, of course, hopping into email. Now, being a Blackberry, always got my device on my hip, so I'm email management, inbox zero. That's the best piece of advice I can give anybody listening, is staying on top of your inbox brings personal satisfaction. And it's awesome when you get that, zero, no new items. Everything's nice and filed. It's great. after checking all the messages, I will then go into the help blog, and we do moderate comments on the help blog and our other corporate blogs. And once I've approved all those, I'll go in and respond, because I feel that is one of those pieces of building a personal brand. Is I want people to know that if they leave me a comment, they're going to get a reply from me. Now, it is easy to get overwhelmed, but by posting in there, and you mentioned earlier, actually, directing to the community, in those scenarios when you kind of have to make that judgment call because you can't help everybody. But if you can help 9 out of 10 people, and that one person that you maybe need a bit more info out of, or you're not really kind of getting to that where you want to get to that solution, that's where you say, hey, let's leverage the community, and you bring in those super users who are ready to jump in and help out the person. And what I think is really cool too is if I flag a thread and say, hey folks, we got a customer in here with a kind of a peculiar issue, is someone able to help out? They are always willing to jump in and help. And
amazing.
I think that's building that kind of relationship with them where, I have, and I don't think I mentioned this word yet earlier, but that's kind of what the UGC piece, trust. They have trusted, vested knowledge. And by enabling them to use that, you're empowering them to come back and do more. But with that being said, because I digress, which I often do, sorry, approving all the comments on the blog, and then it's jumping into the forums, whether it's private messages, all the different forum threads and posts, and seeing what people are talking about. And when we do a product launch, taking that sentiment and taking the feedback verbatim. And I think that's, if I could get one message out to some of the fans here, that's the one thing that you may not see. Is I kind of use the iceberg analogy of, you see it a little bit on top, but there's a lot going on underneath. The customer feedback is priceless, and it is critical to developing really good quality products and services, and taking that feedback and sharing it with the product manager and saying, this is how this was received, and sharing, positive, neutral, and negative feedback. It allows them to kind of make decisions which are going to influence the product. So switching gears from the product, feature requests and issues, I'll also jump in, and coming from support, I love helping people. So as much as I'm writing content on the help blog and helping do a lot of administrative work, I'll jump in the forums and I'll start posting, okay, let's, 1, 2, 3, try this. If this doesn't work, here's another suggestion, followed by kind of the outlet approach, which is if you're still encountering issues, contact your service provider or call Blackberry directly via our incident-based support. And then following that, it's kind of, whether you got your meetings throughout the day, staying on top of those, but always being diligent to check your emails. And the one thing I found is if you can't get to something right then and there, take advantage of flags. The amount of people that don't use email flags, you have to use them, because it's just a simple, click, tap in Outlook or on your device, a quick shortcut, and that messages you've got that reminder for, it's almost at the end of the day and I have to get to this. Because that's that honesty piece, in the sense of, if I call you and leave you a voicemail and you don't call me back for another 2 days, I'm kind of be like, well, was he on vacation? Was he ignoring me? How do I get some help here? Going back, and even if it's just to say, hey, need a little more time, still checking into this. But staying on top of things is really important. Tools of the trade, though, Bitly. You got to have stats. Anytime you share a link, even if it's informal, just in a blog comment, utilize Bitly. They offer a great branded service. So we have a blck.by, so kind of Blackberry as our shortener. And let your community know too, by the way, that they can take advantage of that. Because if they share a link using a blackberry.com domain, it's automatically shortened into that. So it kind of gives them that nice professional aspect as well too when they're sharing, which is really, really cool. But in combination with Bitly, Discus, I love their website for comments. They make it really great and easy kind of to go through them, see your analytics, stay on top of the notifications. And then I'm a big advocate of Microsoft OneNote. Whether it's going to a meeting, Scratchpad, sitting on a call. I love being a fly on a wall on calls often, because I'll just sit there, and thankfully I've got mute on, otherwise I'd drive people crazy. But I am typing away in a storm, kind of capturing all the ideas in bullet points, but then taking me back to think about, what are some things and perspectives that I could be doing different, which works out really well. Followed by, of course, my Blackberry, which is a critical tool. Being mobile savvy is critical to this type of job, because there are times when you're at I remember last year I had just gotten off a roller coaster and I got a message from someone saying something broke. We got to get that changed. From your device, you're able to do everything. And it's being prepared, because if I didn't have my device set up the way I had it back then, I wouldn't have been able to do what I needed to. So it's a combination of, having your tools, but also having them ready at your disposal for when need. And of course, text edit on Mac or Notepad, because formatting when posting into comments or the forums, if you're copying from Microsoft Word, always strip your formatting, because nothing looks more unprofessional than when you post a message from Word and it's all kind of the lines are all broken as a result of rich formatting going into plain text. So it's polish. And the only other thing I could really say from not really a tool is, I'm sure everyone on the line knows, is the kind of the 5-minute rule. So after you write like a really long email, kind of take 5 minutes and read it over. And it's not the standard wait 5 minutes because, did I really want to say that? It's wait 5 minutes because you may have overlooked something. You may not have considered something that the person already included, or they put at a point in their notes. So it is kind of that taking a moment back, lift your hands up from the keyboard, read your message a couple times, and reread what the customer wrote, because nothing will frustrate a customer more than being asked the same thing twice. And I don't blame them at all. So that's kind of the tricks of the trade for how I do. And I did see one question from the WP trainer. I mentioned this is it's kind of an older, but it's a Corsair gaming headset. I find for whenever I do speaking activities or anytime I'm using a mic on a computer, gaming headsets are awesome because the sound quality is great, but the mic quality I find is really in particular quite good. So I hope that everyone was able to hear me without issue today, and it's a great little device.
One thing for social media management, which tool do you use?
So we use Sprinkler for Twitter.
Okay.
For our forums, we are a Lithium-powered community. And Lithium, absolutely love working with them. Our team of moderators have a lot of experience with the community, with our community, because it's been around for, I think we're going over 7.5 years now. I could be off. I'm horrible with timing and dates. I have no shame admitting that. But we utilize Lithium for the forums, Sprinkler for Twitter, and or WordPress for the blog. So what's kind of nifty too about that is those tools, they have a lot of also self-service content online, and that's one thing I find in this role too. If you stop learning, you're going to be behind the ball in less than a week.
Totally agree.
And it's fun, and I mean that's the other kind of, I almost would equate it to being a tool, is block off some time in your calendar daily, whether it's 15 minutes or even half an hour, and of course let your leaders know, but pick a topic, and you pick something relevant to your community or to what you're doing, and spend some time, and there are so many blogs out there. There's so much information that's out there to give you perspective and thoughts and kind of kick the tires on ideas you may have had just when you were having a morning coffee one day. But taking that time to improve your own personal knowledge is ultimately going to result in your community being the benefit of that, because you're going to be bringing in new ideas. And of course, that two-way street. Run it by your guys, by your super users first, because they often can say, like, hey, that's a fundamental change, but I like it. Or maybe we're trying to go things a little too quick, or that idea really didn't work. But also they'll tell you too things that you may need to learn. And it's a really rewarding experience being able to say, okay, I had no idea what that was on Monday, and by Friday I feel confident in speaking to it a bit. I can, work my way around it, and I also know where to go to learn more. What are the expression they use? Your Google foop, like your ability to find stuff in a search engine. If you work in social, chances are you're an expert at that. So it's fun, but personal knowledge, I feel, is one of the most important things that I don't want to say is overlooked, but I feel sometimes people don't think about that, and it's important that you do that, because you get that personal satisfaction of, I learn something new every day, and it's awesome. And I mean, I'm dabbling more into Google Analytics now, and it is mind-blowing what it can do. But when you also have a fundamental understanding of it, you can kind of say, hey, I can put that into my community. I can also look into how can I tell how many people my super users are helping that may also potentially turn into more device sales, because, hey, I'm a customer. I got help in the community. They also recommended this. Well, I'm going to purchase this based on the recommendation, using Google Analytics to track that. So then you can say to your leadership, hey, here's another valuable metric. In addition to those deflected calls, it's, here's some other things that we're helping drive and bring value to the company. But by challenging yourself to learn those different things and to think outside the box, it's really rewarding. So I encourage everyone to do that. It's fun. Pick a topic. You're always going to have fun learning about it.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. It's funny. This it indirectly connects to yesterday being Happy Teachers Day, because we're basically talking about so much learning, and you are a teacher in your own way. So it's great. It's funny. I was just thinking that I should send you a note that yesterday that said Happy Teachers Day.
I made sure to tell the teachers that I know Happy Teachers Day, but
Yeah,
it still boggles my mind when I kind of hear you say something like that, because you also don't realize, and I know for myself personally, this has been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life, because when you help one person doing phone support, it's awesome. There's nothing better than when you feel that person have that aha moment, or the satisfaction of you're recovering something for them that they may not have been able to find.
Yeah.
But it's the most rewarding thing when you see your name mentioned on a different blog, or you see a blog write something that's very similar to what you put out, and not similar, sorry, but kind of builds off an idea that maybe you had. And there's that two-way street again. Third-party blogs often create have a lot of influence and sway into what I do, because it gives me perspective on, what is my community talking about, but also my outer community. I don't quite know almost like an inner circle I would describe as own channels, whereas the external would be your outer circle. Monitoring them and using them is great, but when you see kind of some information you shared, or a tip that, one of the things I love with Blackberry 10 was some of the undocumented tips that were put on the help blog. You'd see them kind of cascaded around the blogosphere, and it is incredibly rewarding. I remember going home and I would call my mom and be like, Mom, you got to go check out this blog. Look it. And she, would message me the following day being like, she told all of her friends, and then they're messaging me on Facebook saying that's so cool. It's really rewarding. And anyone in this job, I think, I've been very blessed with the opportunity I've been given. It's a privilege, and I'm honored to do what I do. And the Team Blackberry out there, love you guys.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic time. So glad I got you on here and we were able to do this. There's so much learning. This has been recorded. It'll be up on YouTube in the next half hour or so, and then we can share it out to other people to learn from, because there's lots of good stuff and good value. So thanks for watching too, and thanks for fighting through your cold to be on this with me.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm glad I didn't have the sniffles, though, because that probably would have drove you all crazy. So thank you again for joining, everyone. I had a lot of fun here, and if there's any follow-up questions, Ty Williams, CA on Twitter, feel free to connect and reach out. Would love to get your ideas and any feedback on me speaking today, too. I will try to slow down. I know that's something I do. And Jamie, obviously, thank you so much for having me. This was great. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Have a great day. Cheers.